and former Bears quarterback Jim Miller. Ben Johnson, after looking back at the game, had a different scouting report on the play of his quarterback. Tonight, the 32nd sports equinox ever. But we are all Bears all the time. Tonight on CST.
From Fox 32 Chicago Sports, this is Chicago Sports Tonight.
Bears suffered their first loss in 42 days. Their four-game winning streak came to an end yesterday in Baltimore. Let's bring in Danny Parkins from First Things First on Fox Sports 1. Danny joins us every week. Hey, man, was it supposed to end that way? And I ask you this question, and I'm serious because, obviously everyone's depressed here in Chicago. You're in New York, but, Caleb's taking a beating on social media and on sports talk. But really, even when it was learned that Lamar wasn't going to play, the Bears were still 1.5, 2 point, depending on where you gamble, 3-point underdogs. Was it still supposed to end with the Bears losing this game?
Well, I mean, no. It wasn't.
Is that the Bears fan in you saying that?
No. Here, I mean, like I said, I think a 2-point underdog is a coin flip. Like that's a game that can go either way. Like I think if the Bears play the Ravens 10 times, I think they can win that game 4 out of 10 times, and that was one of the 6. I thought that the Ravens defense obviously got healthier, right? Some guys who had been out were back, and that was big for them. Whatever you put on like must win, it was objectively a bigger game for Baltimore than it was for Chicago, just because, the Ravens had one win at that point and were staring at 1-6 without their quarterback out there. But the Bears had 15 takeaways in 4 games going into that game. And then they got 0. So they had been carried by their defense, and then they needed to be carried by their offense, and their offense couldn't carry them.
You look at the numbers, and when the Bears get more than 1 takeaway, they're 4-0. When they get 1 or 0, they're now 0-3. And after not forcing a turnover yesterday, as you said, they lose this football game. Are we learning that this Bears team, in order to win, the defense needs to come up with more than 1 takeaway?
Yeah, that's certainly been the case so far, and I think it's another season with the defense being ahead of the offense, which is very frustrating, given where the quarterback was selected, given who the head coach is, given where some of the resources and the drafts recently have been poured into the offensive side of the ball. And like the neutral observer would say patience. And if you beat the Bengals and the Giants, you can still be 6-3 and still have a realistic shot. But then the passionate Bears fan in you, when you're watching that game, is immensely frustrated. And so, yes, I think that stat is obviously telling. Takeaways are a huge piece of this. And quarterback production is a huge piece of this. And Caleb was not terrible, but he was not good enough again. And I think most people are sick and tired of the quarterback not being good enough again.
Let me ask you about the physicality, Danny, because Ben Johnson, in his presser after the game, he said that he expected a little bit more out of his team when it came to the physical play of this football game. Did that surprise you to hear him say that?
No, I loved it though. Like I think that's been maybe the best part of the Ben Johnson experience so far, is that he's very clearly willing to call out his players publicly because he is willing to do it privately. Like, this does not come across at all as a guy who is like saying something to the media to grandstand. It comes across very clearly to me as someone who is coaching his team hard in minicamp, OTA, and training camp and during the week. And then what he says to them, he says like a somewhat watered down version to us, which is refreshing. Because if he was saying that publicly but not also saying it privately, we would be hearing a lot of grumbling from players about that he's not a player coach or that he's a backstabber and that they wouldn't be playing for him. But like, they clearly agree and want to impress him. So I think the Bears, I think the Bears got it right with Ben Johnson. I think he's a good coach who is improving this team, and he's also changing the culture, and he's holding these guys accountable.
I did some studying this morning, and the average each team is averaging about 7 flags a game, and the Bears are at 9.1. I get it. They're on the higher end. But it's a first-year head coach, a number of new players, new scheme. Do you still think that the penalties are way too many, or is it the penalties at the wrong time?
So this is one where I think like both things can be true. I think that like a young offense with a new system and a first-time head coach, it would make sense that they have more penalties than league average. But that doesn't change that they are coming at bad times and wildly frustrating. Like it's one thing if an offensive lineman going against like a backup offensive lineman or a rookie offensive lineman going up against a premier pass rusher gets a couple of holding penalties because he's just overmatched, right? Like that is personnel and you are not good enough to do your assignment, and so you grab and you hold and you cheat it a little bit. Like that's just, you're not good enough. But pre-snap penalties in terms of organization, formation, being rushed, delay of games, getting the play calls in on time, getting the play calls in quick enough in the huddle, getting to the line of scrimmage. Like those sorts of things, I think are the really frustrating parts. And I think there have been way too many pre-snap penalties on the Bears. That's the frustrating part. Is this has been an issue for months and it doesn't seem to be getting solved.
All right, one of the hot button topics here in the city today is Ben Johnson coming out at the press conference after the football game and saying, listen, we as coaches have done what we could. Now it's up to the leaders on this team to make sure that we cut down on these penalties. Is he right or wrong? Does he have a responsibility as a head coach to still make sure that his players aren't committing the penalties, the amount of penalties that they are committing in each game?
Well, I think at this point he's correct. Like, if this is still happening in year 3 of Ben Johnson, then we wonder if his message is falling on deaf ears or like why he can't fix it. But again, we know that they've been harping on this since training camp. Like we know that they've been talking about this publicly and privately for months. And so I don't believe that like Ben Johnson and Antoine Randall and the rest of these coaches are like not saying don't commit penalties or are not, installing the plays with proper formation or anything of the like. Like this at this point, this is an attention to detail thing and it's a pride thing. And yes, like the best locker rooms are player-led locker rooms. Like coaches can lead the team, but the locker room has to be policed by the players. And again, like at this point in the season, I think it's more on the players than the coaches. But if it becomes a macro issue of like Ben Johnson's tenure, then it becomes reflective on the head coach.
All right, I want you to listen to something our mutual friend Jeff Joniak, voice of the Bears, had a chance, he always does on Monday morning, day after the game, to talk to Ben Johnson. And he asked Johnson, after looking at the tape this morning, looking back at the game, does he still feel as strongly about his quarterback not playing well as he did yesterday?
He played better this game than I think he had the previous 2. When you look at it, all 60 minutes. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I actually came away from watching the tape this morning encouraged that we took a step in the right direction here this week. And I know some people, it's hard to maybe rationalize that because the result wasn't there. But yet I saw tangible growth from him. He's working his ass off. I think this thing's going to continue to slow down for him. I think it did to a degree in this game. He did have a couple mistakes that we'll learn from. But no, I came away more encouraged watching the tape than maybe I felt coming off the field yesterday.
It's been a roller coaster all season. I mean, Ben Johnson even made this type of hand movement last week when talking about the offense. Are you okay with this being Caleb's first season, first 7 games with Ben Johnson? Or do you prescribe by those who say, hey, listen, I get it. It's still early in the relationship, but he was the first pick in the draft. This isn't just any quarterback. He's supposed to be special. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He is supposed to make us forget about Bears quarterbacks of the past.
Yeah, I come out much more on that side of it, Lou. Ben Johnson is saying the correct things, and I am in no way, shape, or form like getting out of the Caleb Williams business. Like I think the kid can be special and is wildly talented, and he's shown glimpses of it. And I will even buy what Ben Johnson is saying, and that, upon further review, he was not as bad in that game as he initially thought. I thought that the the interception to Odunze was very clearly late. I thought he held the ball too long. He patted the ball. He telegraphed it. He locked in on Rome. Monangai was wide open in the flat. I don't know that there's really any defending the interception to Odunze. And I understand that it can't just be about production, but some of it has to be about production. And if you remove the Cowboys game from the equation, because everybody eats on the Cowboys, right? We've seen that now. They are arguably the worst defense, and in some of the categories, they are the worst defense in the NFL. If you remove the Cowboys game from Caleb's stats this year, he's completing 61% of his passes, throwing for 223 yards, and he has 5 passing touchdowns against 4 interceptions with a passer rating of 81.5, and the Bears are scoring 22 points per game. Those numbers are somewhere between bad and awful. So it's not good enough. I think Caleb will be fine. I think Caleb still can be great, but Caleb is not doing enough right now. And I don't think that that is some sort of hot take or reactionary thought from a fan. I think that is objectively true.
All right, I'm going to give you a wrap up. They went out, they paid a lot of money to get Grady Jarrett, 10 years in the league. They went out, they spent a fortune on Joe Thuney. They reworked his contract, and obviously he's come with a couple of Super Bowls under his belt. Ben Johnson says he's leaning on the players now. It's up to them to make sure that this season doesn't spiral out of control like last year. I agree. Do you?
Of course. I also don't think we're in much danger of that. I mean, I don't think that, Matt Eberflus and that whole thing was such a disaster. I don't think this is that. I think this is a flawed, incomplete team that at the end of the year, we're going to talk about progress and frustration and ultimately a year where they don't make the playoffs. I think that's the most likely outcome on the board here. But I don't think 10-game losing streak or even 5-game losing streak or even 4-game losing streak is likely. They can beat the Giants. They can beat the Bengals. And if they do, even if they split and are 5-4, it's they're still going to be playing meaningful football well into the holiday season. So I think we're a long ways away from invoking last year with this team.
All right, good. That's good. That's the way I wanted to end this conversation. You making me feel good despite the loss yesterday. Always great to catch up. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Lou. Good stuff, man.
All right, Fox Sports 1's Danny Parkins joining us, as he always does on Mondays following a Bears game. Coming up after a timeout, former Bears quarterback Jim Miller joins us in the house on CST. We're going to really dig deep into the quarterback position. We're going to ask Jimmy how he feels about Caleb Williams through 7 games right after this here on CST. Welcome back to Chicago Sports Tonight on this Monday night, 6:15 here in Chicago. Bears head coach Ben Johnson talked with the media a few hours ago, announced rookie defensive lineman Shamar Turner out for the year with a torn ACL. Defensive end Dominique Robinson is going to miss a few weeks with a high ankle sprain. Defensive end Austin Booker and wide receiver Luther Burden. Let's talk about Burden first. Burden is in concussion protocol, and Austin Booker comes off of IR, so he's available this week. All right, I want to bring in former Bears quarterback Jim Miller. Jim works with us here at Fox on After the Whistle with Tina Wynn, post-game show after all the games on fox32chicago.com. Also part of the NFL radio network on Sirius XM Radio. Hey, Jimmy, let me get into what Ben Johnson talked about today. He doubled down. He reiterated that Caleb Williams should have checked the ball down to Kyle Monangai rather than throw that interception on the Rome Odunze pass attempt. Why is Caleb Williams missing open receivers like Monangai?
Well, you've got to trust your reads. You got to go through your reads, and ultimately it's going to get you to the right guy. When you look at his style of offense that he had under Lincoln Riley out at USC, it's kind of an air raid system, and they kind of throw to the open areas. And this isn't that type of system. This one is much more disciplined. You've got to go through your reads, and you're going to get to the open guy. And I just think sometimes he locks and stays too long on his reads. We've seen that where I think sometimes he's predetermined his reads, but he's just got to go through the process and continue to work at every single snap and tell himself, hey, just go through the reads and it'll eventually get you to the open guy. And he's got to trust his coach, because I really like what Ben Johnson is doing with him. He He was learning through a fire hose through training camp. And when I was there for 2 days, it was a struggle for him. You could tell he was overloaded. It was way too much. Now the coach has scaled it back a little bit. There's not as much volume, but now there needs to be more attention to detail on some things. And he's got to make those bad habits and break those bad habits and make them good habits moving forward. He's gotten better. He's really improved exponentially, but there is still a long ways to go.
Funny you say that. I want you to listen to this. After having the day to look back at yesterday's Bears-Ravens game, Ben Johnson was a bigger fan of the way Caleb Williams played against the Ravens. I want you to listen to the coach earlier today.
He was very efficient with the football there early in the game. I thought he had a number of throws that were on time. We hit a couple in breakers that was encouraging to see. We were explosive in the passing game. I want to say overall we had 11 explosives. 9 of those were in the passing game. He did a good job delivering that football. There's a couple that is, as we talked about, that need to be automatic here at this point halfway through the season that we missed on. And so we're going to keep on working through that process. And I think we're going to be in good shape. I did think he took a step forward here this week.
Jim, you think he took a step forward yesterday?
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. Look at the opening drive. They're getting chunks of yardage, right? It was like first down after first down. So that opening script, he's been really good with the opening script. The Bears have really gone down the field pretty much every game. This game, it didn't end in a touchdown, but previous games it had. This one, it ended with a sack, and they had to settle for a field goal. And if you go even to the second drive, he missed some throws. All right, they have a good drive going. There was a corner route in the end zone. I forget who the receiver was. I thought he should have hit that for a touchdown. I think if you score those touchdowns early against Baltimore, maybe take the running game out of it and start fast on the road would have been a better way. And then, you know, he has, so I thought those first series that they went down, they got in the red zone, but you got to finish. Essentially, you got to finish. He did not finish. You know, he didn't finish the half. He ends with a bad penalty in getting the incompletion where it's called by the official by the quarterback, and so that moved it back, and the Bears couldn't kick a field goal, and then he comes out and has the interception. So there was really a 10-point swing that he personally cost the Bears, and he's just got to eliminate those plays. As we know, in every game, 5 or 6 plays are going to be the difference in it. And for you as a quarterback, one bad decision can cost you a game. Obviously, a pick six, a fumble, strip sack fumble, return for a score, those can cost you. You want to have 0. You don't want to have any of those type of mistakes that are game-changing plays like that. And Caleb has just got to eliminate those. But he has gotten so much better, and he's too talented not to. I think the coach is leading him to water, and he's drinking it. And he's just got to continue to drink. That's all he's got to do. He's heading in the right direction.
Jim, you played the game on this level. 36 players have committed 72 penalties in 7 games for the Bears. Way too many.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
The league average is 7 a team, but the Bears are over 9 right now. This is through 7 games. Why? Why the penalty issue?
Yeah, and I did hear the coach after the game say, hey, it's on the players now. And part of that is Caleb. Like, if you're the quarterback and you're in charge of your offense, you got to let those guys know, guys, this has to stop. Even if it's before every time you head out on that field or before you call that play of the next series. Gentlemen, we got to be on point. We're still a work in progress. We can't have these things setting us back. So guys have to start taking control. I don't want to say he's a veteran. He's a new player in a new offense, but he is the quarterback of this offense. Take charge of it. Demand of your fellow teammates. Guys, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. So just put another, layer of interest in it that guys are paying attention, that we need to be on point. We are not good enough. We are still a work in progress, and we've got to clean this up every single opportunity that we can. And when they do that, they'll start playing some good football.
Jim, I want you to hear Ben Johnson from earlier today after further review of all those flags thrown against the Bears. Listen in.
It's really not that far off than how we've played the previous 4 games. And yet we won because we had those takeaways. And so this week we didn't get the takeaways. And when you play ugly football like that, it's a lot more difficult to win the ball game. So We're on a mission here this week to get this all cleaned up, and I have complete confidence that we'll do that. They're as fed up with it as everyone is in the building, and so they understand it's just not what good football teams do, and I think they're going to take ownership of it. I think we're going to be just fine. If you see something, say something. It's as simple as that. We got to continue to work on our practice habits and get better in that regard. And I think they understand what I'm looking for. We're going to be in good shape.
Jimmy, real quickly, yesterday, Ben Johnson said, you know what, the coaches have done what we can. Now it's up to the leaders of this team. Today, he said that the coaches would still be more involved in stopping, curtailing all these penalties. Which is it?
Yeah, you have to make it a high priority. The coaches have to emphasize it, but you as players have to follow through on it. I mean, you're the ones that are out there executing, so you've got to do your job at the end of the day. You've got to be demanding of it. It's got to become, like you said, something is either a good habit or it's a bad habit. You've got to eliminate the bad habits, and they've got too many bad habits that they need to eliminate because it's hurting them every single game. Coach is right. It's sloppy. That intentional grounding penalty that I mentioned, that's unexcusable. Caleb cannot do that. And other players can't make the penalties that they're making. There are teams that have gone to the Super Bowl that have the most penalties. But those ones, like intentional grounding, that's an avoidable penalty that Caleb can avoid.
All right, Jimmy, you were around last year. What has to happen? Who needs to step up? What players need to speak out to make sure this team doesn't go on an extended losing streak like last season?
Yeah, well, much like Dan Campbell, I think early, Ben Johnson's been the voice. He's been the leader. This is what I want, and he wants guys to emerge. And I think that is yet to declare itself for the Bears. Personally, like when I look at the defense, Kevin Byard's a guy I trust. I'm going to look at him and say, hey, that dude's prepared every day and every game to play. So I think he's a voice that matters. I think on the offensive line, probably a guy like Joe Thuney is a voice that matters. He's been there, done that. He's played championship football. He knows what it's supposed to look like. So guys like that, I think, are going to emerge as the coach is starting to hand it off to these guys to police the locker room a little bit more.
Last 30 seconds. I know you follow the NFL. You probably talked about it a couple of hours ago. Vikings lose quarterback Carson Wentz for the season. He'll have season-ending shoulder surgery. Are you confident J.J. McCarthy can lead the Vikings on a second-half run here?
No, he can't. He's not ready for that. It was too big for him early. He got the lucky one against the Bears, but he's over his head a little bit. He's over his skis a little bit too much. A lot coming at him right now.
Love the honesty, baby. You are my man. Thanks for taking the time. I will see you after next Sunday's game, bud.
All right, sounds good, Lou.
Jim
Thanks for having me.
Miller always does a great job on After the Whistle with Tina Wynn. Coming up, a closing word. You're watching Chicago Sports Tonight, daily here on Fox Chicago.